Hey everybody, welcome to K1 Kart Track here out in Winchester in California. This is a brand new facility and we're the first bikes ever and probably the last, what we've been told, to ever go and ride this circuit. A fabulous racetrack. Yeah, it's pretty rare you get to ride a new racetrack these days, especially a go-kart track, and also on a brand new supermoto. This is the 2025 Suzuki DR-Z4SM. So this is the second street supermoto that I've tested in a week. Last week we tested the KTM 390SM. So it's cool to jump on this, which is now it's the revamped version, but this bike's been around in one form or another for a really long time and has been very popular, especially in California. You see them around quite a lot. But this is a ground up redesign. Now, a few months ago, Suzuki released the dual sport bike, the dual sport version of this. It's effectively the same bike, let's be honest. I mean, obviously 17-inch wheels laced with Dunlop Sport Max tires, which are really bloody good, I've got to say. Well done, Dunlop. Well, those tires went real good over the last couple of days, really cool. Yeah, all new engine, all new twin spar frame, oil in the tank frame, new ergonomics, new plastics. Basically, the only thing that's carried over, I think, is the handlebar. Got an entirely different I'm still not quite, I'm a little unsure of those Suzuki sort of little lights at the front, but it's definitely modernized the look of the 400 Supermoto. Right, with this new motor, Suzuki is claiming 37.5 horsepower and 27.9 pounds-feet of torque, which is, you know, fair enough for just kind of general cruising. It's obviously not going to rip your arms out of your sockets. It works great for an area like a track like what we had here today at K1 Kart Track here in Winchester. On the road, there is one glaring omission, and that is the lack of a sixth gear. If you live anywhere where, you know, especially in continental United States where there's freeways everywhere, not having a sixth gear, it's a real problem because the bike is revving its head off at sort of 65 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour. And unfortunately, there's no rev counter on the dash, so I don't even know what the RPM is that it's doing it at. So all I know is it feels like the thing's getting pretty rattly and pretty vibey. A sixth gear would have been brilliant, but that's one of the little issues. I feel in relation to something like the KTM that I rode last week, it has a fair bit more bottom end torque. It punches off the corners quite nicely. You've got 3 riding modes, Suzuki's good old drive mode, select mode that came out on the 2008, I think it was, Suzuki GSX-R 600 and 1000. You got that on this bike as well. You've got you got traction control, so you actually have taken the traction control system basically that was on the dual sport bike. It has a gravel mode in the traction control system, but it's not really the same thing. The Suzuki tells us that the gravel mode on this bike versus the gravel mode on the dual sport bike has a different slip, even though they actually say the same thing. And you're not going to take this bike on gravel anyway, I mean, unless you're going to a racetrack. So that can get a little confusing. Obviously, you can switch it off. You can switch traction control off. You can also switch your ABS to an off-road mode, but effectively it's like a supermoto mode, like with KTM, where you have rear wheel ABS disengaged and it allows you to slide around and do all sorts of silly things. Front ABS, however, is always engaged. To that end, you've also got a slightly bigger front disc. Braking performance is pretty good, actually, I've got to say. It's not revolutionary, but it goes okay. It'll hold you up from speeds plenty nice. And I'm not too fussed about the ABS in the front. Like, especially on the racetrack, I gave it a really good hard handful, and it didn't really kick in too much. Occasionally, if you went and changed direction and you got the front light and then peeled into a corner, sometimes you get a bit of a pulse then, but you kind of have to be pushing it quite hard to get the thing to kick in. So that's just something to be wary of. 46 KYB fork and monoshock as well on this DR-Z4SM. Got the name right, they're just there. We did screw around a lot with the settings on the road yesterday and basically just maxed took everything right in and made sure it got a lot harder in the ride, because at base settings it is quite springy front and rear. So, you know, with my overly sized ass, it's nice to beef the thing up and make it hold its line a little bit better. But suspension is quite good, I've got to say. Like, you do feel the differences in the clickers. You know, it's not like one of those systems where you change a whole bunch of things and nothing really happens. So Suzuki's done quite well there. One area that I wasn't a big fan of was that bloody seat. That seat is like a plank after about 40 minutes or so on board. It really is not very comfortable. So that can be a bit of an issue. I think if you're going to be using this thing as like a commuter or an inner city cruiser or something like that, where you're just zipping around between blocks, then look, it's going to be fine. But you're not going to go for big rides on that thing unless you've got an arse made of wood, effectively. So now one area that we haven't spoken about is the price, $89.90. That's a pretty impressive price tag, I've got to say, for this bike. Okay, couple of caveats there. It is made in Japan. It is made by Suzuki. KTM is 54.90 and is made in India, so you can kind of you can put in your own prejudices, I guess, as far as price and that goes. But it's a significant amount of money difference over their nearest competitor. For what you get, though, you do get a very good bike. You get a very proven bike. I mean, this bike can trace its lineage back a really, really long way. Man, that's a big price tag, gotta say. And it's about 1,500 bucks more than what the previous version was. Yes, it is an all new bike. When you get these things out the door from the dealer, you're gonna be way over 10 grand. You can buy a lot of bike for 10 grand these days, a lot of bike. So, I don't know, I'm not in charge of Suzuki's pricing. Look, it's gonna last forever. That's what those DR-Zs do. You know, you can't break those things. They're well known as like supermoto training bikes where they just get crashed and smashed and rev limited and just like, and they don't break. You know, they're like Honda's old XR in a way. So yeah, I think that's gonna be its biggest problem. Performance isn't an issue. You get good hardware, you get electronics, you get traction control, ABS, all that stuff. The price is the big elephant in the room. But look, it's a good bike. It's lacking in a few areas. The lack of 6 gears, a bummer. The seat's not comfortable. You can fix the seat, can't really fix the lack of 6 gear. Price is a bit of an issue, but hey, if you just bleed Suzuki blue, then it's not going to be a problem for you. Anyway, guys, that's it. Yeah, leave your comments, questions below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Give us a thumbs up if you can. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I'll see you then. Keep it rubber side down. Cheers.